But alright, chat. We got the entire history of Spider-Man in 70 minutes. 70 minutes, okay? I'm ready. But alright, chat. The entire history of Spider-Man in 70 minutes. Let's go.
Ever wanted to learn the entire history of Spider-Man from the comics, but you're either too poor, can't be arsed to read the wiki, or just hate Watch Mojo with your very soul? To see the journey from a young, inexperienced
Let me know if the audio's
Spider-Man
off.
to a battle-hardened
For me and the video.
superhero veteran, capable of leading the Avengers into battle. If I forget anything, if I leave out your favourite story of Spider-Kid from the 80s or something, feel free to tell me in the comments. First off, no one likes their time being wasted. I could stretch this out and get like $1 billion in ad revenue, but we all know Spider-Man's origin story. There's no point going over it in tremendous detail. Peter Parker gets bit by a spider, his uncle gets bit by a bullet. With great power comes great responsibility. We've seen it a million times. However, a lot of people think that it was Uncle Ben who said that famous line, whereas in the original comic, Uncle Ben shows
Wait,
up
did
for
he
like
not?
2 panels, dies off screen, and Peter learns his lesson from a text box. Little does Peter know, he is seen crawling out his window by the girl next door, Mary Jane Watson, making her the first ever person to discover Spider-Man's identity. This origin story was meant to be a one-off deal, but due to the popularity of the character, he was soon given his own main series. The Amazing Spider-Man followed the daily double life of Peter Parker as he balanced his high school studies with his secret alter ego. He would be constantly picked on by the people at school, especially by Flash Thompson, who, despite being a relentless bully, would become Spider-Man's number one fan. He would defend his hero no matter what anyone said about him, even making his own Spider-Man fan club, completely oblivious that the person he's worshipping is the same one he tries to beat up every day. After a long day of fighting hardened criminals, Peter would come home to Aunt May, who thought he was just this poor little delicate boy who wouldn't harm a fly. And while Aunt May was just this frail old lady who could be taken out by a paper airplane, underneath she was a very strong-spirited fighter who had a lot of wisdom for her nephew. Peter's heroics as Spider-Man would be publicly shamed by J. Jonah Jameson,
I hate
whose
this
blind
nigga, bro.
hatred for Spider-Man was really just a cover-up for his own self-doubt. As head of the Spider-Man fan club, Flash would speak out against Jameson's biased reporting, and even tries to fight him one time. Peter would take pictures of himself as Spider-Man and sell them to Jameson, thus allowing Peter to pay for Aunt May's rent. It's also depressing as hell seeing how a single paycheck is enough for him to pay an entire year's worth of rent. While at Jameson's office, Peter meets his secretary, Betty Brandt. The two are very fond of each other and eventually start dating. However, a spanner is thrown into the works when her brother is brutally murdered and she blames Spider-Man for his death. Therefore, Peter can never reveal his identity out of fear that she'll despise him. To make things even worse, Liz Allen, who was previously one of the people who bullied Peter, does a complete 180 and now will stop at nothing until he's wrapped around her finger. Peter doesn't really give a shit, but Betty gets super jealous and the relationship soon falls apart. After they break up, Aunt May's like, "Oh, don't worry, Peter, I know a beautiful girl. Her name is Mary Jane Watson." But Peter's too busy with Spider-Man stuff, and so he declines the offer. There's something very...
But that's something about the series, too. Like, Aunt May's always trying to alley-oop MJ into the situation, bro. Even in the games and shit. That shit's so funny to me, bro.
charming about Peter's early career as Spider-Man. It's light, it's fun, and very nostalgic reading it back now. Seeing this young boy meet all of these iconic characters for the first time. These people who will go on to impact his life in so many ways and he has no idea of it yet. He's dreaming of being a scientist, not knowing that one day that will come true. We get to see Peter make new friends, fall in love for the first time, and watch as he messes it all up. We see the first appearances of all his classic villains,
MJ can't catch a break.
Dr. Octopus,
That's
Sandman,
true.
Electro, and Kraven the Hunter. Such
Just for
tragic
knowing Peter.
characters as Dr. Kirk Connors, who accidentally turns himself into a lizard and tries to eat Spider-Man, only to be cured and return to his loving family. Or the Scorpion, who Jameson helped create to try and capture
Damn, that's a
Spider-Man,
lame-ass
only to
suit.
be driven insane and turn to a life of crime. There's also
Yo,
the
that ain't the.
mysterious
Hold on. That is not the. Bro, that's not Scorpion. That's the Green Bean. What the fuck is that? Yo, oh hell no. What the fuck is that? That looks like a morph turtle, bro. Oh no, you gotta pack it up and go home, bro.
Spider-Man,
I think it's
only to be
irrelevant.
driven insane and turn to a life of crime. There's also the mysterious Green Goblin, whose main goal is just to fuck with Spider-Man. Every time Spider-Man would defeat him, he'd go back to his secret lair and it'd be like, "Oh, who is he? Guess who it's gonna be?" And then they just don't tell you. It's also interesting
Fresh
to
from
see how
IoT.
little a role Uncle Ben plays in these early issues. His death serves more of an
Yo.
inconvenience to Peter.
I think
now,
it's definitely from
and
FC
after
Island,
being
bro.
briefly
No lie.
mentioned in issue 1, he's not even brought up again for the next 30-odd issues. Peter instead looks up to his fellow heroes, such as the Avengers or the Fantastic Four. Sure, he might
Right.
insult them and get into the odd fight now and again, but deep down he desperately wants to have their confidence, their respect. In his first fight with Dr. Octopus, Peter gets completely annihilated and feels really ashamed about his defeat.
And I feel like that's kind of like fucked up too, cause like with Marvel, right? They depict like okay, when you think of the Avengers, right, and you add Spider-Man to the mix, I see Spider-Man as DLC. Does that make sense? Like Spider-Man is part of the crew, but like almost like he wasn't the foundation of it. You know what I mean? I guess being like, having like Iron Man as his mentor, but like, bro, I wish Spider-Man was full on. You know what I'm saying? The Avengers. Honestly, ditto. Okay, because I'm just like, bro, he's like an add-on kind of. You know what I mean? I wish he was like part of the foundation. You know what I mean? Maybe it was the movies. Maybe it was the movies.
He's ready to just give everything up until the Human Torch delivers a powerful speech about resilience and beating the odds no matter what. Peter's then inspired to confront Dr. Octopus again and emerges triumphant. Peter's
At least West Coast
heroic actions
Avengers,
come
yeah.
from him just wanting to be better rather than from a burden of guilt.
Okay, Spider-Man.
These big superhero teams represent where he's trying to get to, both as a hero and as a person. A bunch of Peter's villains come together to form the Sinister Six, but they're so far up their own asses that they fight him one-on-one instead of as a team, and he wipes the floor with them. Determined to get rid of Spider-Man for good, Jameson commissions a killer robot to hunt him down and capture him. He enlists the roboticist Spencer Smythe to build it, calling it the Spider Slayer. Peter ultimately
What?
outsmarts them by making a puppet of himself and tricking them into capturing the puppet.
Wait, so he's his
Eventually,
own
Peter
villain?
graduates from high school, getting a science
thought he was just a
scholarship
hater.
at Empire State University. Unfortunately for Peter, Flash is getting a sports scholarship to the same place, so he'll not be getting rid of him anytime soon. At university, Peter meets some new faces, such as his new classmates, Harry Osborn and Gwen Stacy. Just as Peter's getting used to this new stage in his life, Aunt May falls hideously ill and is rushed to the hospital. This
I'm sorry, who's Gwen Stacy again? That's not Black Cat, is it?
completely throws Peter off, and he's so busy focusing on Aunt
I
May's
have no
health
clue.
that all his new classmates
I
think
just heard
he's
the
some
name.
sort of massive antisocial prick. It doesn't
No.
help that Flash Thompson is there to talk shit about him, reaffirming everything that Harry and Gwen already think of him. The doctors are like, listen mate, your aunt's probably
The name
fucking
just
dead."
sounds
So
familiar.
Peter seeks help from Dr. Curtis Connors, aka the Lizard, who tells him of this special serum that can save Aunt May, and it's so unbelievably rare that there's like one in existence. Peter pawns off all his valuables to pay for it. However, Dr. Octopus conveniently needs the same serum for his own research, and
Got
hijacks the
you.
shipment before it arrives. Peter tracks down Doc Ock to his underwater base, and manages to steal back the serum that Aunt May needs. But it doesn't matter, because during their fight, the base's
Got you,
structure
got
is
you,
so
got you.
significantly damaged that it collapses on top of them. It's here that we get one of the most iconic Spider-Man moments of all time, where Peter is trapped under the machinery, exhausted and alone, moments away from drowning. Knowing that Aunt May will die if she doesn't get the serum, and fueled by the memory of Uncle Ben, Peter defies all odds through sheer willpower alone, finding the strength to lift an impossible weight and free him from the base's ruins. It's a moment that fully embodies one of
yeah.
Spider-Man's most powerful abilities, his will to always get back up. Peter rushes back.
Yo, they do a good job at depicting his muscles, bro. Like in the comics and shit like that. Like showing his actual strength. They don't really do that in the I mean, they kind of do it in the video games, but like even in the movies, you know what I'm saying? I feel like compared to the comics, the movies are actually a bit lacking, I'm not gonna lie.
The hospital with the serum and saves Aunt May's life. He's of course relieved, but now has to go back to his university where everyone hates him. Everyone, that is, except Gwen Stacy, who's determined that Peter isn't all bad and maybe just misunderstood. At this moment in time, Peter is not interested in Gwen because he's still hung up over Betty, who's now dating a guy called Ned. Yes,
I'd never
that
heard of
Ned,
Betty.
and she might even
ever.
be getting married to him. Oh, but Peter,
I always prefer
don't you
comic
want
to the
meet
movie.
Mary
Yeah.
Jane Watson, she's a beautiful young lass.
Me too,
Shut up,
honestly.
May, I'm going through my edgy, all women are the same phase. At the same time, we get the first appearance of Norman Osborn, who, yeah, okay, at this point, everyone knows he's the Green Goblin. Norman hatches a plan to find out Spider-Man's identity, and so he just follows him home, and attacks him out in the open for anyone to see. With the element of surprise, he's able to defeat Peter and take him back to his evil lair. After a villainous speech about how he's gonna put
You
Peter
actually
in a
fuck with his
cheese
comic
grater
book
and
suit,
make
bro.
his life misery, Peter manages to
It's
get
actually
free
kinda clean.
and the two battle it out. If the Goblin escapes, he could go for Aunt May, he could go for Betty. Everything is at risk, and so Peter doesn't hold back. He beats him to near death, covers
Damn.
him in a bunch of deadly chemicals, and
Damn.
accidentally sets him on fire. Still
Damn.
overpowered by doing the right thing, Peter gets Norman to safety. He discovers that the chemicals have messed with Norman's mind, and that he doesn't remember who Peter is, or that he's the Green Goblin. Very convenient, but Peter hands him over to the authorities, saying that Norman is innocent, and actually helped him take down the Green Goblin. Norman is admitted to hospital, and Peter comforts Harry over what happened to his father, an act that brings them closer together and sets them down a path of friendship. Peter begins to heal his reputation at university and finds himself attracted to Gwen. He's about to make a move when, "Peter, Mary Jane is here!" And in another iconic Spider-Man moment, Peter meets Mary Jane for the first time. He's instantly taken aback. Her beauty, her charm, her carefree attitude. Peter's like, "Alright Gwen, respectfully, you can fuck off," and instantly starts dating Mary Jane. It's not really like an exclusive thing, so Peter is still going for Gwen. The college era of Spider-Man is one of my favourites, and is equally as nostalgic as his high school days. It took what worked from the previous era and developed it further, resulting in some of the most iconic characters that we all know today. And while old villains were expanded upon, we were introduced to some new ones, such as the Rhino, the Shocker, and the Kingpin. Also, Jameson commissioned Spencer Smythe to create yet another Spider Slayer, which
Bro,
works.
is the Green Goblin, and besides Green Goblin, like, the Green Goblin and Spider-Man are the only cool, like, comically designed characters. Everyone else look like they in onesies, bro. They're in like fuzzy onesies, bro, and they should not be there. Like they look dangerous, but not even cool dangerous. They just look creepy dangerous. You know what I'm saying?
Out just as well as the last one. As time went on,
Spider
Peter's
Slayer
friend group
2?
solidified a bit more, with Mary Jane joining the group, and Flash slowly losing the bully persona. Peter finally moved out of Aunt May's
Mysterio?
house and started sharing a fancy new
True,
apartment with Harry. Peter also grew closer
Mysterio.
with Gwen, and the two became more romantically involved. But once again, Spider-Man got in the way when, during a fight with Dr. Octopus, Peter suffers complete amnesia and takes days to regain his memory.
Damn.
During this time, he doesn't know his real name or where he lives, and so his absence severely worries his friends and family. Peter goes to the police
Wait,
department.
all right, my fault for pausing chat. But doesn't Batman go through the same thing? Doesn't he get amnesia and he low-key gains it back in like one of the universes?
For help, where he meets Gwen's dad, Captain George Stacy. You see, Captain Stacy has been studying Spider-Man during his retirement, and has come to the conclusion that he's an all-round pretty good guy. So when the other officers have doubts about Spider-Man, Captain Stacy comes to his defense and convinces the others to help him. Meanwhile, Harry's looking through Peter's room to find clues of his whereabouts, and discovers some of his Spider-Man equipment. This leads Harry to put two and two together and come to the realization that Spider-Man kidnapped Peter Parker. Not exactly Sherlock Holmes, are you, mate? Instantly, word breaks out that Spider-Man has in fact kidnapped Peter Parker while
That's
he's
so
in the
funny.
police department. And they're like, Did you kidnap Peter Parker? No. Just then, Gwen rushes in and demands to know where Peter is. Spider-Man's still suffering from amnesia, so he's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and escapes before things can escalate. Eventually, Peter gets his memory back through water or something, and returns home to his friends and family. Of course, he needs to think of an excuse, and so the best he can come up with is that Spider-Man kidnapped me, but, you know, he's actually a pretty good guy. Well, that checks out. Captain Stacy takes Peter to see Gwen, who's over the moon to see him. However, while she's helplessly in love with
Spider-Man
Peter,
Joe is
he now
shit.
absolutely detests Spider-Man.
He what, MJ
Captain
or
Stacy
Gwen?
became a recurring character, who was very supportive of his daughter's relationship, and was someone that Peter could confide in. This all changed during yet again another battle with Dr. Octopus. During their fight on top of a building, a crowd builds up on the ground below. Captain Stacy arrives at the scene, urging the civilians to get to safety, but it's no use. Things take a turn for the worse when Doc Ock knocks into an abnormally large chimney, sending a mountain of debris hurtling towards a small child. While everyone else runs away, Captain Stacy lunges towards the boy, sacrificing himself to save him. In his last moments, Stacy reveals that he had figured out Peter's identity and tells him to be there for Gwen when he's gone. Spider-Man is blamed for Captain Stacy's death, because of course he is, with Jameson using it as an opportunity to sway the public against them. And if Gwen hated Spider-Man before, now it's like on sight. If there was ever any hope of Peter telling her the truth, it's gone, further driving a
How's
massive
Spider-Man
rift
gonna get
between
blamed
them.
for the whole thing,
And so
bro?
begins a series of extremely depressing issues where Gwen moves to England and Peter thinks he's lost her
No one
forever.
comes at Dr.
Harry
Octopus?
finds himself caught up in a drug ring and overdoses a bunch of times. The entire
What?
city is now strongly against Spider-Man, abusing him at every chance they get, and every issue ends up with Peter crying. But among the darkness, there is lightness. During her time in England, Gwen has time to reflect on her father's death, realizing that her hatred of Spider-Man
always
got
is
in the way of
blamed?
her relationship
That fucking
with Peter, and that
sucks,
she
bro.
does truly love him.
That defeats the whole
She
purpose
comes
of a
home to
hero.
New York, and the two of them are now happier than ever. They go on a romantic vacation to the Savage Land, which goes as well as it sounds. Jameson creates yet another Spider Slayer. Peter even tries to
Another
remove
Spider
his
Slayer.
powers to spend more time with Gwen, but in doing so accidentally grows an extra 4 arms. Once again, he goes to Kurt Connors for help. Morbius gets in the way, fucks the whole thing up, and the lizard goes out of control. But in the end, they're able to use
I forgot
Morbius's
Morbius
blood
existed,
to control
bro.
the lizard and get rid of Peter's
Spider
extra
Slayer
arms.
3.
It's here that Gwen is at her most supportive of Peter. They're both deeply
They
in
don't
love,
really slay
the gang's all
spiders,
together,
don't they,
everything's
bro?
going perfectly.
Defeats the
until
whole
she
purpose of the
fucking
invention,
dies.
bro.
It's no spoiler that
Wait,
the Green
hold
Goblin
on, huh?
completely of Peter. They're both deeply in love, the gang's all together, everything's going perfectly.
Oh my
until
gosh, it's
she
like Cobra
fucking
Kai.
dies. It's no spoiler that the Green Goblin kills Gwen Stacy. I'd say that the knowledge of her death makes this story all the more impactful. Just knowing that she's doomed no matter what, and there's nothing you can do about it. Norman Osborn's
Hey, don't attack me. It's Morbin time. That's just hilarious, bro. I never watched The Amazing Spider-Man, so I did not know that Gwen dies. You know what I'm saying? That fucking sucks, bro. And is it like that in like? Well, he just said in every universe, kind of like Miles' dad and like Uncle Ben. Damn, canon events,
a
bro.
mental breakdown brought on by his son's troubles with addiction. Suddenly, all of his memories start flooding back, and he instantly resumes his mission to make Peter's life hell. His first stop is at Peter's apartment, where he finds an unsuspecting Gwen Stacy. Peter confronts the Goblin on the Brooklyn Bridge, where he throws Gwen to her death. Now, it's meant to be ambiguous whether or not it was the fall or Peter's webbing that killed her, but Roy Thomas, editor of Marvel Comics at the time, basically came out and said, it was the webbing, chop. Gwen's death really captures what death is for a lot of people. It's sudden, it's unfair. The actual event is over quickly, but its effects, the consequences it has on the people around it, stay around for years. The Green Goblin is impaled by his own glider, and Peter is left with no one to blame but himself. In the wake of her friend's death, Mary Jane unravels her mischievous, carefree
The Green
persona,
Goblin dies as
becoming
well?
far more serious and emotionally transparent. She and Peter support
Yo,
each
I ain't
other
know
through this
Spider-Man
time
got
and
this deep,
ultimately
bro.
grow closer to one another. Meanwhile, Harry's figuring out that maybe Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Harry discovers his father's evil lair and tries to avenge him as the new Green Goblin, blowing up their apartment to try and kill
What?
Peter. Peter responds by punching him in the face and leaving him for the authorities. Harry is diagnosed as a complete lunatic and is sent to an asylum. Now, months after Gwen's death, Peter and MJ enter the dating stage and share their first kiss. Finally, something positive in Peter's
to the
life,
black suit
with
arc?
him and MJ's relationship
Damn.
pulling him out of his depression. He can't stop thinking of her, and this is exactly what he needs to... Gwen is back. After Peter convinces himself that he's not gone insane, he's now got to deal with the fact that his dead girlfriend is back, and has no idea about his new, very much alive girlfriend, which is just
Gwen
as
can't get
awkward
mad,
as it
bro.
is heartbreaking. After some quick investigating, they find that Gwen's body is still in her grave, so this new Gwen, while being genetically identical, is something else entirely. This storyline marks a beginning of a certain trend in Spider-Man comics, starting the series down a path that would result in a very confusing, controversial mess. Clones.
Right.
You see, this new Gwen Stacy is actually a genetic experiment created by one of Spider-Man's most infamous enemies.
Who the fuck is
Jackal.
that?
Spider-Man's
The
villains have always
Jackal?
had
That
these
nigga does
tragic
not
but
look like a
Spider-Man's most
jackal.
infamous enemies. The Jackal. Spider-Man's villains have always had these tragic backstories.
The
Dr.
Jackal?
Octopus was a scientist whose experiment messed with his head. The
Bro,
lizard was just a
what?
family man trying to grow his arm back. And the Jackal is a nonce. A professor at Empire State University, the Jackal fell in love with one of his students.
There's a professor
and became
there?
very jealous of her boyfriend at the time. After her death, he was so heartbroken and used his scientific skills to clone her back from the dead. He then dressed up in a Grinch costume and psychologically tortured Spider-Man with the clone of his dead girlfriend. He creates a clone of Spider-Man with all of his memories and personality so that, from the clone's perspective,
Oh, is
he
this where that
is
meme came
Spider-Man.
from?
He then kidnaps the real Spider-Man and switches them about so they have no idea who the clone
Oh,
is.
Spider-Man
Jackal
pointing
blows
meme?
himself up. He's a bitch, who cares? But what matters is that one of the Spider-Men dies with him. So while it's back to normal, there's only one Peter Parker, he's not actually sure if he's the real Peter, which sends him into an existential crisis. Realizing that she's not actually Gwen Stacy, the clone of Gwen leaves New York to become her own person. I'm sure these clones will never be a problem in the future. Meanwhile, Jameson goes to create yet another Spider Slayer. However, this
Bro,
time
what?
Spencer Smythe is like, "Fuck your Spider Slayers," and tries to kill Jameson, only to end up dying himself. Aunt May almost marries Dr. Octopus. I can't remember
What?
why, and I don't care. Also, Kurt Connors has beef with this guy called Stegron, who's basically the lizard, but he turned himself into a dinosaur. Kurt's son Billy is kidnapped, and the lizard goes toe-to-toe with Stegron, who's now got an army of dinosaurs, and Spider-Man's caught in the middle of it. Stegron falls into a river and dies, and Kurt is reunited with his family. From this point on, Kurt became Spider-Man's solution to everything. Hey, someone put a bomb on us. Help. The Moonstones. Something to do with the moon? While the whole clone situation puts some strain on Peter and MJ's relationship, they eventually heal things and Peter ends up proposing to her. To which she says,
Aw.
no. She
What?
friendzones him and moves to Florida.
Damn!
This just so happens to take place in the same issue as the Big Wheel. Sure, the majority of Peter's
Bro.
college friends are either dead, clinically insane, or in a different state, but at least it's time for him to graduate.
Imagine going through
Except
all
he's
that.
actually denied graduation
Proposed to
because
her
he
and she
missed
say
one
no.
gym class by accident. Peter starts dating the Black Cat, which is great because now he doesn't have to hide his identity or worry about her getting hurt. Harry gets
Yeah.
amnesia and is cured of his insanity, so it's like the whole thing never happened. Spider-Man's sent to fucking space, and fights one of the most powerful beings in the multiverse. Bit of a step up, but during his cosmic adventure, he gains a cool new black costume, which can transform into whatever he wants with a single
Ooh.
thought, making
Wait.
outfit changes so much easier.
That's how it works? So this is after, so wait, time out. So is this like after because when he said that they all go up and fight this creature, is the creature Thanos? Is the creature not Thanos, or is it like Galactic? Like who's the space creature? It could be a lot of things, bro. And then he just gains a big ass orb. He got the black suit after the Secret Wars. Is Kang? Who the fuck is Kang? Hey, you know what? This is perfect for me not being as deep into the Marvel lore as I should be, bro. I'm learning so much right now. This is actually so inspirational, bro. Because who the fuck is Kang, and why didn't he cover him, bro?
in space.
I want to
and
see
fights one of the
Kang.
most
Who's Kang?
powerful beings in the multiverse. Bit of a step up, but during his cosmic adventure, he gains
Hey,
a
the X-Men
cool
was in
new
that joint,
black
though.
costume,
That's
which
fire.
can transform into whatever he wants with a single thought, making outfit changes so much easier. Upon realizing that Black Cat only cares about the spider and not the man, their relationship falls through, just in time for Mary Jane returning home from Florida. There was probably another Spider Slayer in there, built by
Kang's a
Smythe's
threat on the
son.
same level as
Once
Dr.
you read,
Doom?
like 800
Golly.
issues in a week, they all start to blend together. It's here we reach
Basically
a crucial
invented
point in
multiversal
Peter and
travel.
MJ's relationship, in which MJ has had enough
Ooh,
of
that's
hiding the
cool.
truth
How come I never
and
heard of
reveals
him?
that she's known Peter's secret all along.
Is he underrated?
The constant knowledge of Peter risking his life has gotten too much for her, which is why she turned Peter down and left New York. Realizing that things are only going to get better if they're honest with each other, the two promise to be there for each other and figure out how their relationship is going to work. Peter gets a little
Bro,
bit
just
freaked out
leave
when his
MJ,
new
bro.
costume starts swinging him around New York while he's asleep, and so he goes to the Fantastic Four to get it checked out. Upon learning that it's actually
Yeah,
alive,
very much European.
Peter has them
Yeah.
remove it and put it in a tube.
I would
It's
honestly
not
agree
that
with that.
easy,
I'd never
though,
heard
as
of the
suit
dude, bro.
soon escapes and forces itself back onto Peter. Struggling to get it off, Peter discovers its main weakness, as the sound of a church bell traumatizes the symbiote, seemingly killing it for good. Despite this, Peter would still wear a cloth version of the black suit, cause Black Cat thought it was hot. Did someone say Spider Slayer? With Smythe dead, Jameson hires
Is that what
Dr.
you were
Marla
referencing
Madison
this
to
whole
build
time,
another
bro?
one, but the two actually fall in love and eventually get married. As a wedding,
What?
someone said wear a cloth version of the black suit, cause Black Cat thought it was hot. Did someone say Spider Slayer? With Smythe dead, Jameson hires Dr. Marla Madison to build
Oh.
another one, but the two actually fall in love and eventually
My
get
fault.
married. As a
Spider
wedding gift,
Slayer 5.
Spider-Man makes out with him. What the fuck, Spider-Man? Blaming
What?
Jameson for what happened to him, the Scorpion kidnaps Marla in an attempt at revenge, but his plan
This
is
nigga still looks like a
short-lived and
green
is stopped
bean?
by Spider-Man. Spider-Man also fights alongside the mercenary Silver Sable, taking down such evil villains as the Black Fox, the Jack-O-Lantern, and the US government. As Peter and MJ
The
go
US
closer and
government.
closer, Peter realizes that this is the person who he wants to spend the rest of his life with. And after a massive kick in the balls of a cliffhanger, we get to the next issue, where MJ says, yes! Because she
No.
initially turns him down, yet again, but we soon learn that she's just afraid of marriage because of how her parents turned out. Everyone in her family ran out on her and tried to escape their
So look,
responsibilities,
high key, bro.
so it's almost in her
High
nature
key.
to run away from big decisions like this. But after learning that it's not a bad thing to commit to someone you love, MJ accepts Peter's proposal. And so it's time for Spider-Man to get married. Wedding guests include Aunt May, Flash, Harry, Jameson, Marla, Robbie Robertson of the Daily Bugle, MJ's Aunt Anna, and Betty. No, Ned.
Got a handful of haters in there, bro.
Ned died. Peter and MJ move into an apartment together as newlywed husband and
Okay,
wife.
Spider-Man.
This is something I love about the Spider-Man comics from, well, before 2007. For the most part, they let Peter grow, not just physically from a teenager to an adult, but as a person as well. Sure, he still has his flaws, as any character should, but you can see him become more
Why is he
mature.
light-skinned
You can see
staring
how
right
he's
here?
learned and improved from his years of being a superhero. Spider-Man's always been about relatability, and sure, him having his
Dude,
life...
I love the blue accents around the black suit. Like, it's such a great form of shading, bro. It's actually really nice. Like, the light blue is such a great contrast, bro.
or being really unlucky is part of it, but it's his growth that's the most relatable aspect for me. Like all of us, Peter gets anxious and uncertain about each new chapter of his life, but he still accepts the change and embraces it. Whether it's going to college, having to find a whole new group of friends, graduation, choosing the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, married life, parenthood, accepting and moving on from the death of a loved one. If there's one thing I hope this video illustrates, it's that change is key to Spider-Man. Shortly after their honeymoon, Peter and MJ are tormented by Kraven the Hunter, who, after a lifetime of being defeated and humiliated by Spider-Man, hatches a plan to kill him and redeem his honor as a hunter. In the past, Kraven would use spears, darts,
See,
all
I know
sorts
who
of
this is,
traditional
chat.
hunting equipment. But what have they done for him lately? So Kraven abandons his usual set of tools in favour of a gun, which he uses to just straight up fucking murder Spider-Man. Kraven buries Spider-Man's body himself, puts
He's actually
on a Spider-Man costume, and stands over his grave in what is possibly one of the most coldest villain moments of all time. But he doesn't just stop there. He then goes around doing Spider-Man's job for him, going so far as to kill people, thus ruining Spider-Man's reputation. The
Yo,
only
that's
person who doesn't
disrespectful,
fool
bro.
Is Mary Jane, who instantly sees through Kraven's disguise. After a series of visual metaphors which definitely scarred any kids reading it at the time, Peter uses his indomitable will and love for MJ to dig the way out of his own grave. He goes to confront Kraven, but Kraven refuses to fight back.
He comes back from the
Sure,
dead?
Spider-Man may still be alive, but it doesn't matter.
Yo, wait, hold on. What issue is this? I'm trying to read this, June, bro. Bro, that shit's so disrespectful. Imagine he towering over your grave in your suit, bro. After he finally hunted you, gang. That's crazy. And Spider-Man come back from the dead? Oh, yeah, I need this issue, bro.
Proved himself superior and made his point that he was
I'm going to the
worthy of
comic book
title
store
Kraven the
tomorrow.
Hunter, and his honor was restored. He leaves a confession for the police, clearing Spider-Man's name, and with that, Kraven shoots himself in the head. Both this story and the Death of Jean DeWolf arc marked a darker time for Spider-Man. With brutal deaths and disturbing imagery, Spider-Man comics were at their most mature, but they weren't just dark and edgy for the sake of it. They were grounded in character and the themes of morality, revenge, flaws in the system, all of which produced some of the most memorable Spider-Man stories to date. Shortly after, we reach Amazing Spider-Man issue 300, featuring the first appearance of
Thank you,
Venom.
because
Already
I actually
traumatized by
will,
her
like,
run-in
cop
with
that
Kraven,
issue, bro.
MJ comes home to find this. No matter
Venom?
the amount of life-threatening situations she's been in, MJ has always remained strong in the face of danger, so
The fuck
Peter
is
is
that?
determined to find out what could have possibly made her feel so helpless. Upon confronting this strange new creature, we get a look at his tragic backstory.
Oh, yeah,
Eddie
that's
Brock
Venom.
was just a simple reporter for the Daily Globe, one of the Daily Bugle's competitors. After Spider-Man exposed his fraudulent journalism, Eddie's career was made into a laughingstock, and with his life completely ruined, he had no other option but just to off himself. Raised as a Catholic, however, Eddie believed suicide to be a mortal sin, and so before he took his own life, he went to a church to pray for forgiveness, the same church in which Spider-Man was fighting the symbiote. It latched onto Eddie, feeding off his humiliation and desire for revenge, transforming him into Venom. And in another contender for the coldest villain moments of all time, Venom webs Spider-Man to that same church bell, so that when midnight strikes and the bell starts to ring, Spider-Man will be squished into tiny pieces, thus exorcising him. Spider-Man breaks free through the power of bullshit and defeats
Through
Venom
the
by
power of
throwing him into the
bullshit.
ground. He
Oh,
takes Eddie
nah.
to the Fantastic Four, who put him in a tube and ship him off to some gulag.
'Cause that
With
sounds so
MJ still
butchy.
traumatized by Venom, Peter ditches his black costume in favour of his classic red and blue. Meanwhile, Aunt May worries that she's been getting in the way of her nephew's marriage and distances herself from everyone. MJ reassures her that they do still need her and still want her as part of their lives, bringing them closer than ever.
Aww.
May also finds a new partner by the name of Nathan. He's a bit of a knob, but the two have some decent chemistry, and he's vital for May to move on from her dead husband, and he's dead. Also, Kat finds out that Peter's now married to MJ and starts dating Flash just to mess with him. Alright, it's the fucking 90s. A lot of people really don't like this era because of all the clones and, Marvel and DC were just trying to outdo each other in terms of who could make the most weirdest, most edgiest shit imaginable.
Yeah, what the
like
fuck is that,
Kane,
bro?
a rejected clone of Spider-Man who uses his spider powers to stick his hand to people's faces and rip them off. You also have Cletus Cassidy, a serial killer who shares a cell with Eddie Brock. When the Venom
Ew.
symbiote has a baby,
Oh,
it
Carnage.
latches onto Cletus and he becomes the superpowered mass murderer known as Carnage.
Nah, Carnage
After
is
Harry
cool.
had got
Carnage
his
is cool.
amnesia, things were working out for him. He married Liz from Peter's high school. The two had a son called Normie. He's having a gay old time. That is until the X-Men do some bullshit that messes with everyone's heads, and now all of Harry's goblin memories are restored. And of course you'd expect him to go goblin mode on everyone and Spider-Man would have to stop him. But no. It's actually a pleasant
Loki top-
surprise
yes,
when Harry
bro.
doesn't instantly
Yes.
turn evil, and instead goes round trying to be a
Debatably
superhero.
top 5, bro.
Unfortunately, it doesn't last long, as Harry is repeatedly haunted by visions of his dead father, and eventually the Green Goblin persona takes over. Once again determined
I
to
feel like
avenge
his shading and
father,
his designs
the
in the
Goblin
comic
confronts
is really
Peter
great as
and tries
well.
to blow him up. During the fights, Harry's real personality starts to fight the Goblin, and he keeps switching between the two personas. Peter tries to get Harry to fight it, but it's no use. After a fierce battle, Peter surrenders himself to the Goblin, saying that the only way this ends is if one of them dies. Even though he has every advantage, the Goblin can't bring himself to kill Peter, proving that Harry's still in there and still fighting to do the right thing. The Goblin flees the scene and spends the next 12 issues swimming in Goblin juice, making himself
Goblin
stronger,
juice.
crazier, and diluting what's left of Harry's personality. But while this special juice does enhance him, it's also killing him from the inside. He then starts stalking Peter, following him in the street or at the Daily Bugle, threatening to give up his identity. He even goes so far as to bring Mary Jane to the same place that Gwen died, just as another way of fucking with him. Peter takes
That's
the
crazy.
bait and confronts him, still hopeful that his old friend can be redeemed. The Goblin lures Peter to a building rigged with explosives, and drugs Peter so that he can barely
And
move.
it's cool too, because he did say it was the 90s. You could see the comic book start to improve in terms of quality, bro. Like Spider-Man looks much better now. You can see all the webs and shit on him. I think this is a different suit, no? But regardless, the Green Goblin looked better. Even though I thought the Green Goblin always looked cool. I ain't gonna lie.
Clear to him that their rivalry will go on forever.
I hope the
so
other villains
Goblin
look cooler.
plans for both of them to die
And
in
not just in
explosion.
onesies,
that way
bro.
he'll have avenged his father's death while also ending his own mental suffering. Peter is fucked and can do nothing but lie there and wait to be blown up. However, the day is saved by MJ, who has brought Harry's son with her in an attempt to break through to him. Upon realizing that his son is about to be turned to ash, Harry's personality snaps back. He instantly gets MJ and Normie to safety, realizes he forgot about Peter, and saves him as well. But the Goblin formula has taken too much of a toll on his body, and Harry collapses. Harry thanks Peter for believing in him, and lets him know that no matter what happened between them, he still considers him his best friend. He holds Peter's hand and smiles, before succumbing to his injuries and dying. As Peter grieves his friend's
What?
death, the issue ends with a picture of Peter and Harry in their college days. A simpler, happier
Dude,
time.
that's so crazy because the first I heard of Harry was from the Spider-Man playthrough we're playing now, and the whole time it's just Peter thanking Harry for all the little research tokens and shit to get the costumes and whatever. It's little side quests, but bro, I did not know this was this dude's whole story. He followed up as the Green Goblin. I wonder if that happens in Spider-Man 2. I can't wait to play that shit, bro.
Before any of this happened. Alright, it's time for the clone
My fault,
saga.
Shep.
Now this event was stretched over several years and has a fuck ton of characters, so it was a nightmare to navigate.
Yeah,
For
the
this
whole
video
story.
I did want to actually read everything myself, and not just rely on the wiki, but my god, it helped. If the story just took place in one comic and was really, really long, then sure, that's fine. But it took place back
Scarlet
and forth
Spider?
between the 4
fuck
concurrent
is that?
Spider-Man series at the time, plus the 30-something other series that the story was planted in between. And you know what? I didn't actually have to read like half of these. Most of them have fuck all to do with the main story, but that's what Wikipedia told me. Maybe the teachers were right about Wikipedia all along.
Why'd you listen?
The actual
Yeah, I'm
main
about to
story
say,
is
bro,
pretty
what?
simple if you remove like
Why'd you
half
listen to
the stuff they
Wikipedia?
threw in there. Remember that clone of Spider-Man that the Jackal used to fuck with him? Turns out he didn't die and has actually been living in secret under the name of Ben Reilly. After doing a fancy DNA test, it's revealed that our Peter, the one we've been following for the past 30 odd years, is in fact the clone, and that Ben is actually the original Peter Parker from those very first issues. Also, MJ is pregnant. Another existential crisis ensues, but you know what? This is actually kind of good news. Now that there's another Spider-Man, Peter can now focus more on his family and dedicate most of his time to be a dad. And so Peter retires from being a superhero and lets Ben take his place as the new Spider-Man. Some stuff happens, Venom, clonage, maximum clonage, oh shit. They got Speedball in this? And then at the end, it's revealed that Norman Osborn is alive, and he's been pulling the strings this whole time.
Again?
Turns out Norman faked the DNA test, because why not? Fuck you. And Peter is actually the original. This is proven when, during a final confrontation with Osborn, Ben sacrifices himself to save Peter, and his body turns to ash. The Clone Saga then ends on a very tragic note. Peter and MJ's child is stillborn, which is probably one of the most traumatic experiences any couple can have. Why add this to the list of tragedies they've faced? Well, the story is that Marvel thought that Peter having a child would age him up too much, and the change would be too much for the readers without realizing that's the whole fucking point. And this comes right after Aunt May gives them a speech about how much of a responsibility it is to raise a child. Responsibility? Spider-Man? The Clone Saga may have been a controversial, convoluted mess, but in the midst of all the chaos, we got Amazing Spider-Man 400, which is just an absolutely beautiful issue and marked one of the biggest changes in Peter Parker's life. Aunt May's been on the cusp of death for the past 30 years, and having got another illness, it's clear she's not going to last much longer. She's advised to stay in bed and rest, but May wants to make the most of the time she has left with Peter, and they visit the top of the Empire State Building. Much to Peter's surprise, May reveals that she's known he was Spider-Man for a very long time, and says that Uncle Ben would have been proud of him. Now weaker than ever, Peter takes May home to rest. When Peter tries to call the doctor, May refuses. She knows that she's way past her time, but she just held on that little bit longer so she could say her goodbye to Peter. While she knows he won't take it well, she reassures him that she's had a good, long life, and that she couldn't be prouder of the kind, decent soul that Peter has always been. MJ and Aunt Anna arrive to find a devastated Peter grieving over May's body, and they break down into tears together. Aunt May is buried next to Uncle Ben, and Peter accepts yet another inevitability of life. The 90s marked the last real progression in Peter's stages of life. He'd gone from an angsty teenager who lived in his Aunt May's house and had no one to confide in, to a mature, married man who'd lost more than he deserved, but had loved ones to support him and be honest with. This was of course ruined by a number of decisions made by Marvel in the dying breath of the 90s. New writers step in. Aunt May is back. Turns out she didn't actually die and blames her death on rap music?
Yo, bro, okay, yeah, no, I ain't gonna lie. The whole Marvel and DC back and forth bullshit is actually insane. Like, let the old lady rest, bro. We was having like a, you know what I'm saying? It was all cinematic. They had the tombstones and shit like that. She's not dead anymore. Come on, bro. Come on.
Also, she doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man because that wasn't her. That was some actress clone thing that the Green Goblin made. MJ goes on a plane and gets blown up, but it turns out she actually wasn't on the plane and she got kidnapped. Peter's like, okay, I don't care, and starts kissing this teenager. Okay, I'm doing this run a disservice by explaining it like this, but it more or less cements a trend in Spider-Man comics of 1. Shaking things up for no other reason than just trying to get an increase in sales, which never actually ends up working, and 2. Refusing to let Peter grow, or actively regressing his character in an attempt to make him more
starting to get cash grabby.
Peter saves MJ from the kidnapper, to which she uncharacteristically says that they need to go on a break, and the two of them separate. Not the brightest of times, but here's when J. Michael Straczynski comes in. At the start of the 21st century, Straczynski took over Amazing Spider-Man and was like, alright, time to fix this.
Chat, which y'all prefer, DC or Marvel?
Together, but don't just have them instantly come back. Make the most of their time apart, exploring why it is they need each other, and so that when they do reunite, it's satisfying and it's earned. This is Spider-Man in his absolute prime. Having become a teacher at his old school, Peter is able to express his passion for science while helping the same vulnerable kids that he used to be. His sense of responsibility is in full swing, going out of his way to help impoverished students and making a genuinely positive impact on the neighborhood, not just by punching a villain in the face, but by being compassionate and just putting in the effort. Less Spider,
DC's great, but
more
I grew up
man.
with Marvel.
His years of crime fighting are evident
Word.
in the way that he tackles problems.
Most people, the
He's
way
still
I
got
last
that-
talk, because the only, like, besides you, Godly, the only other person I know that, like, that's really deep into, like, superhero stuff is, like, a childhood friend that I had. And he was like, oh, well, Marvel's great in terms of production, but DC's story is just better. But, like, I can't make the decision because I'm not as deep into the lore as you guys are. But that's just what he said. And I'm like, huh, that's an interesting take. Joey too. Joey thinks the same thing. Yeah, I can't. Like, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Again, I personally, I don't know. I like everybody here, bro. I don't think I'm worthy enough to make a decision. Because honestly, I grew up with Marvel as well. In comparison to DC, I feel like Marvel definitely like mocked in terms of, again, production. But like, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to knock on DC. DC has a lot of cool shit. You just gotta, read into the lines a little bit.
Witty trickster's edge from Stan's original comics, he's still tremendously unlucky and suffers hard times. But
This
there's
was my
always
favorite
that
comic of
glimmer
all
of
time.
hope in there somewhere.
That's
Some
fair.
people don't like what Straczynski did.
You know
with
what? Cause I might just read Invincible, gang. I might just read that shit, bro. Instead of like, cause I'm out here thinking, damn, I don't have Amazon Prime, bro. I could just read. Well, first off, I could pirate that shit. I just didn't put the effort in. But like, I could just read Invincible, gang. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna watch like as much as out right now, and then just honestly whatchamacallit, read the rest. Cause sometimes, do you like the comic over the show? Like, which one's better, bro? Cause it's kind of like that with like anime. Like sometimes like the manga is better than, you know what I'm saying, than the anime adaptation.
Spider totem stuff, suggesting that Peter's powers came from a magical spider god. I for one can't get enough of it, but it's important to note that he's more just posing a question rather than giving a concrete explanation. One of the best things that he did was completely revamp the character of Aunt May. In the past, there were signs of her internal strength.
Thank you, but I'll figure out my way to pirate it. I can,
but a lot
you know what I'm saying?
It would be forgotten, and she'd be reduced
I can make it
to
work.
this weak old lady who would die from shock if she ever found out her nephew's secret.
But improve the
Straczynski
screen?
understood
Okay,
that
bet.
for someone to take in a child,
Because it's not like that
wasn't
with
originally
anime.
hers, raise
Sometimes
him
the
despite
quality
all
is
the other
different, the
tragedies
quality is
in her
lowered
life, watch
when turned
as the
into an
love of her
anime,
life
so-
is gunned down in front of her. Watch as her nephew suffers loss after loss, and feel like she can't talk to him about it. Try to find comfort in someone new, only to have them ripped away from her, to suffer through the loneliness of old age, and even then, to still keep going. A life like that would require absolute, unparalleled strength, and something like Peter being Spider-Man wouldn't change that. When May discovers Peter's secret by accident, she's realistically in shock, but after having time to process it, the two sit down and have a lengthy conversation about everything they've been through, all of the years they've lost to a lie, and how Aunt May just thought he was gay the whole time. This is also the first time that the great power, great responsibility line was attributed to Uncle Ben, and was no longer stuck in that little text box. A bunch of cool stuff happens, some not so cool stuff happens, not his fault. Peter fights the Spider Queen, whose kiss gives him all sorts of new powers, such as organic webbing out of his wrist. Peter then dies and comes back to life. Don't worry about it. He also fights a villain called Paste Pot Pete, and upon hearing
Who the
this
fuck,
ridiculous
bro?
name,
Who's Paste Pot Pete? Oh hell no! Who's Paste Pot Pete? Hey, bro, tell this nigga to say that shit for Disney, gang. Why the fuck he look like a villain from Shark Boy and Lava Girl, bro? Oh hell no! He needs to go somewhere, bro. Who the fuck is this? Yeah, nah, they got it. They got it. 90s Marvel was weird, bro. They got that
bursts
shit,
out
bro.
into so much laughter that he can no longer fight the villain. Things really start to change when, after a villain attacks their homes and leaves Peter, MJ, and Aunt May homeless, they're invited to live with the Avengers. They don't have to worry about money anymore. Peter becomes close to Iron Man and becomes his right-hand man. Aunt May's kind of got a thing going on with Jarvis. And then Speedball, old fucking Speedball, comes along and ruins everything. If you don't know, I'm talking about the massive Civil War event of 2006. It kicks off when a bunch of inexperienced superheroes attempt to stop a team of supervillains, but the whole thing goes sideways and ends up causing a devastating amount of civilian casualties. This leads the government to rethink how they should treat superheroes, and Peter is left with a choice. He can either give up his secret identity to the government and become their little errand boy, or he and his family can be hunted down and put in a hell prison. Iron Man is supportive of the government, and so, being his right-hand man, Peter goes along with him, an act that he would come to regret so very, very much. It's important to note that Peter doesn't just go along with Iron Man because,
Yo, Iron
it's
Man look
Iron
cool in the
Man.
comics,
After
bro.
what happened with Speedball, he genuinely does believe that superheroes need to be trusted, and that this is one step in the right direction. However, out of all the people who are on Iron Man's team, all the heroes who are publicly in support of the government, Peter's the only one with a secret identity. So, to practice what they preach and get the public on their side, they ask Peter to reveal his identity to the world. If you think this is stupid, Peter does too. But after being convinced by his loved ones that this is the right thing to do, and that this would demonstrate responsibility for his actions, Peter accepts. And so, in a moment he's been dreading ever since he was a teenager, Spider-Man reveals his identity on live television. Peter's whole life goes to shit. He's abused by the public, his family is hunted down, Jameson tries to sue him for like $2 trillion. The only real people who stand up for him are Flash Thompson and Betty, but that's basically it. Still, Peter made a promise, and continues to hunt
Flash
down
started
those who defy the
standing up for him.
government, even though it kills him inside. Upon seeing the Hell Prison where they're keeping all of the unregistered superheroes, Peter reaches the final straw and turns against Iron Man. This is quite difficult as they still live in Avengers Tower, so after moving his family to a dodgy motel, Peter joins Captain America to fight for the side of freedom. From the shadows, Kingpin, along with many other of Spider-Man's villains,
Nigga
starts a
head
plot
big as
to
hell.
kill Peter and
Is that
his
Murdoch?
family. In the wake of the Civil War, Captain America is shot dead, and Peter
Damn.
barely makes it out alive. He returns to MJ and Aunt May, only for one of the Kingpin's men to open fire on them. Aunt May is hit instead of Peter, and Peter rushes her to the
Damn.
hospital. While May desperately clings to life, Peter brutally tracks down everyone responsible for the incident, which leads him right to the Kingpin. Breaking into the prison he's held in, Peter humiliates the Kingpin, using his raw strength and no longer pulling his punches, setting an example of what happens when you come after Spider-Man's family. With Aunt May's condition getting worse and worse, Peter tries to get help from everyone he can think of. He goes to Iron Man, but Iron Man's like, no, die. And so he goes to Doctor Strange, who has literal magic that can raise people from the dead, but he's like,
Right.
oh, I'm sorry man, I can't help you because... And so with no one else to turn to, Peter thinks, the devil! It's here we get one more day. It's not exactly a groundbreaking opinion to say that this is the worst thing humanity has ever produced in the history of anything ever. A certain someone at Marvel didn't want Peter and MJ to be married, and so this story was created to retcon like 40 years of history and assassinate Peter's character, and even though I despise it with every fibre of my being, and it makes me want to devolve myself into a fish and go live in the sea, it's actually not that bad. Hear me out, but the actual presentation, how this story is told, is actually alright, and in some places, dare I say, actually kind of beautiful. The devil, aka Mephisto, shows up, and gives Peter a deal. He will save Aunt May's life, he will make everyone forget Spider-Man's identity, he'll provide a fresh new start for all of the characters, on the condition that Peter and MJ are no longer married. In what is possibly the worst divorce of all time, Peter
Why?
and MJ's marriage will be erased from history. They will have no memory that anything has changed, and they will spend the rest of their days apart from one another, living with an unbearable emptiness in their souls which longs for a love they won't even know existed.
All for
Instead of
Aunt May to be
accepting
back?
what happened to Aunt May, who, as much as I love her character, was way past her expiration date. Let's be real.
Right.
Not to mention that she would definitely be against sacrificing her beloved nephew's happiness. Peter says, okay. Sure, he's reluctant to do it. but
Just
he
for
still
Aunt
does it
May to
anyway.
die later
And so
on.
Peter and MJ have 24 hours left to spend with each other. And this bit's actually kind of beautifully written. It's almost as if Straczynski is saying, hey, I don't want to do this, but there's nothing I can do. Even MJ's like, what are we doing? This is stupid. If you swap out Mephisto for Marvel editorial, you can really identify with the characters and the situation they're forced into. Having developed these characters over the course of his run, building up a genuinely realistic human relationship between them, Straczynski is able to make their last moments together very touching and impactful. And so a giant, infuriating, big red fuck you reset button is pressed, pretty much erasing decades of character development. That's like half an hour of this video. Gone.
Right.
Mary Jane is now the ex-girlfriend of Peter Parker for reasons unknown. Aunt May's alive and well, has no idea Peter is Spider-Man. Are you really gonna do this a third time, Marvel? Also, Harry's back. Way to negate that touching moment. But at the end of the day, it's a comic book I didn't like. It happened like
How did
15
Harry
odd
come
years
back?
ago, and hey, you gotta take the bad with the good. For every Craven's Last Hunt, there's a one more day. For every beautifully written character piece, there's a bite in the fucking ass. At least Stan Lee liked it. And so begins a brand new day. An editorial attempt to wipe
Yeah,
the
that's
slate
whack,
clean
bro.
and get Peter back to his
That's
roots.
definitely like
You know,
cash
he's
grab to
young,
keep the thing
he's
going,
cool,
bro.
He's got his life out of order. He sleeps around.
Probably 'cause
He
of
doesn't have a
Mephisto?
job. He's back at his Aunt May's house. God, this physically hurts. We get new villains such as Mr. Negative, a superpowered crime lord whose touch can either heal people or corrupt them. There's also Overdrive, Freak, Menace,
Freak.
Paper Doll,
What the fuck?
Screwball. Barack Obama's in this. Flash has returned from the war in Iraq, having lost both of his legs. Aunt May's now volunteering at a homeless shelter, which is coincidentally run by Mr. Negative in disguise. Also, she's
just showed a
dating
list of
J. Jonah
lamos,
Jameson's
bro.
dad. And speaking of J. Jonah Jameson, he's essentially fired after the Daily Bugle is bought out by another company. And so, leaving his career in journalism behind, he decides to run for mayor. His
Oh
first
my gosh,
course of
okay,
action
even
upon
worse.
being elected is to publicly fund a death squad to capture
Mr. Negative?
Spider-Man.
That's Martin
You
Lee,
could
right?
Call it a Spider
We just beat that dude,
Slayers.
bro.
And yeah, these first few issues suffer from the
Hey,
whiplash
yo.
of the new status quo. But once it sinks in and you get used to it, there are some pretty good stories. Here's one that's really
Wait,
fucked up.
what's the
Eddie Brock
context
starts to
behind
have
that?
doubts about the Venom symbiote, which is bad for the symbiote because it needs a host to survive. And so it plants memories in Eddie's head, convincing him that he has terminal
Spider Slayer
cancer
6?
and that Venom is the only thing keeping him alive. This psychological effect then leads to him actually getting cancer, to which the Venom symbiote is like, oh shit, and ditches him, leaving him to die of cancer. The symbiote then goes on to bond with Mac Gargan, aka the Scorpion, creating a all-new powerful Venom. With very little time left
that's
to live,
cool.
Eddie wants to make peace before he dies and starts volunteering at the same shelter as Aunt May. During his time there, he comes in contact with Mr. Negative, whose touch completely heals Eddie of his cancer. Eddie is over the moon, just in time for the new Venom to show up and start trashing the place. Upon meeting its old host, the symbiote is like, alright Gargan, see ya,
Finally,
and
Pete
starts
Green bean
trying to
design?
bond with
Honestly,
Eddie
bro.
again. When the Venom symbiote fuses with the special healing cells still left in Eddie's body, a new symbiote is created,
'Cause he needed it.
transforming Eddie into the new Anti-Venom. With the help of Spider-Man, Anti-Venom
Oh,
takes
that's
down Venom
sick,
and goes
bro.
off on a mission to save the world or something. It's here we reach Amazing Spider-Man
Chat,
issue
notice
6.
how notice how shit start getting cool when you involve symbiotes. Like Green Bean, the Scorpion gets fixed. We get Anti-Venom. You know what I'm saying? Carnage. Like the symbiotes might be the coolest motherfuckers in this joint, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
600, which marked a very special occasion, the wedding of Aunt May and J. Jameson Sr. But before Peter can attend, he has to deal with a brand new Dr. Octopus. You see, while Otto has
Brand
his
new.
robot arms, he himself is just a regular guy. And after a lifetime of fighting Spider-Man, each punch to the face has resulted in a series of traumatic brain injuries, leading him to be diagnosed with less than a year to live.
Yeah, I know who
And just
Nolan is.
like
I know who
Eddie, he
Nolan
doesn't
is.
want his
I
legacy
played too
to be
much in
that
Marvel
of
Rivals,
villainy.
gang.
He wants to leave the people of
I know
New
exactly
York
who
with
that
something
is.
positive, and so he creates
pretty
an
cool in
army
damn
of
self, bro.
Octobots and spreads them all about the city, psychically connecting
Octobots.
them to every appliance, every mode of transport, thus creating a perfect system where everything runs on time without any issues. But because this system is controlled by his subconscious, Otto's hatred for Spider-Man starts to corrupt the city, and all of its appliances start blowing up in an attempt to kill him. Spider-Man
Damn.
tracks Otto to his lair, where he finds him in a disturbing zombified state, his new suit keeping him alive while adding 4 extra tentacles. Spider-Man manages to defeat him by plugging his own brain into the system and overriding Otto's so-called perfect city. Otto escapes by the skin of his teeth, and Peter goes home to prepare for Aunt May's wedding. The ceremony is
Aunt
actually
May's
really sweet.
wedding?
Peter walks his aunt down the aisle, Mayor Jameson gives a very thoughtful, kind of insulting speech, and the marriage becomes official, making Peter and Jameson technically related. Aunt May throws her bouquet, the tradition being that whoever catches it will be the next to get married, which is then caught by none other than
MJ.
Mary Jane Watson. But this happy,
Oh.
wholesome time doesn't last forever. We get an incredibly sad story
Damn.
about the Rhino, who has abandoned crime completely and has a
I
steady
thought that was
job
Big
and
Pen.
loving wife. And it's really sweet hearing him talk about his wife, how he'll do anything for her, making it all the more devastating when his wife is killed right in front of him. The Rhino believes it to
Who
be
would've
a
figured?
punishment for thinking he could have a normal life, and turns back to his life of crime. Kurt Connors starts losing his mind and transforms into the lizard once more, brutally killing a bunch of people in his lab. In order to get rid of Kurt completely, the lizard tracks down Kurt's son Billy and prepares to kill him as well. Spider-Man
Damn.
is too late to rescue him, and while Kurt's consciousness begs the lizard to stop, he can do nothing but watch as he eats his own son. With this sacrifice, the lizard
Damn.
sheds into a new form, and Kurt Connors is truly dead. He escapes into the shadows while Spider-Man is left utterly defeated. And because Peter can't catch a break, Kraven the Hunter is brought back from the dead. He's resurrected by his wife and daughter, who stabbed Spider-Man through the heart in a ritualistic sacrifice. But Kraven is like, why the fuck did you bring me back? I was happy with my whole big sacrifice thing, and then you fucking Palpatined me.
Anime hair.
And to make things worse, they got the wrong Spider-Man. It was actually Kane, Spider-Man's edgy clone from the 90s. This
Right.
mistake has corrupted the sacrifice, and has actually put a curse on Kraven, making him immortal until he's killed by none other than Spider-Man's hand. So we have a man who wants to die, who can only be killed by a man who hates killing. Kraven begs Peter to kill him, but Peter refuses. He tells Kraven to treat his resurrection as a second chance, and use it to do some good. And so Kraven does exactly that. He moves to the Savage Land to start a new life, although he's still salty about his family resurrecting him, and so he kills them. It's around this time
Damn.
that Peter starts dating forensic scientist and friend of Harry Osborn, Carly Cooper. Also, Marla puts in a good word for Peter at the tech company Horizon Labs, and Peter is hired as a member of their think tank. For once in his life, he's making a really good salary, there are no set hours, so him disappearing as Spider-Man won't be a problem, and most importantly, he can once again express his love for science, fulfilling the dreams he had all the way back when he was a teenager. Peter impresses his new boss by essentially just repackaging old Spider-Man inventions into new consumer-friendly devices.
Yeah, they do got a lot
Meanwhile,
of good
the
villains.
US government removes the symbiote from Mac Gargan and
A
gives
lot
it
of great
to their
villains.
best military veteran, Flash Thompson. Flash becomes Agent Venom, giving him the power to walk again, as he performs a series of missions for the US military,
Flash.
all while behind the scenes,
Oh, that makes
Dr.
sense. He
Octopus
just came
is
back from the
beginning
war.
his final master plan. Now I know what you're thinking, there hasn't been another Spider Slayer in a while. Oh shit, Alistair Smythe, son of Spencer Smythe, has returned, calling himself the Spider Slayer, and is seeking vengeance for his
Bro,
father's death.
every Spider Slayer has done everything in the world possible but slain a single spider, bro. I don't even, like, but beyond Spider-Man, you haven't even touched the damn spider, bro. Like, it is so ass backward. Spider Slayer 7? We're on Model 7 and Spider-Man's still alive and kicking? Come on, gang. You gotta tighten up. It's been 7 models, bro. Give it up, champ. Give it up, bro.
He does so by trying to kill anyone who Jameson's ever loved or has any connection with whatsoever, which, now that they're family, includes Peter. To help him with this goal, the Spider Slayer develops a army of cyborg minions and recruits Mac Gargan, who shares the desire for revenge against Jameson. Smythe gives him an upgraded version of the Scorpion suit and sends
Oh,
him
that's
to keep Spider-Man
cool.
busy.
See,
The cyborg
see,
minion-
now we're getting into some great suits, bro. Now we're getting into the cool. That looks sick, bro. That looks sick. We're getting into some of the nice suits, bro. There's no more Green Bean. We've moved past that era now. We're no longer the Green Bean. We're Scorpion now. See, that's what I like
an
to see.
upgraded version of the Scorpion suit, and sends him to keep Spider-Man busy. The cyborg minions are sent after Aunt May, Jay, Marla, the Daily Bugle, all in separate places that Spider-Man couldn't possibly be in at once. And then he remembers, oh wait, I'm part of the Avengers, why don't I just call them for help? And so he calls them up, and the person on the other end of the phone is Squirrel Girl, who completely
Squirrel
ignores
Girl.
all of his requests, to which Spider-Man is like, well, I'm fucked. Surprisingly, Squirrel Girl pulls through in the end, by passing his message over to the real Avengers, who all race to save Spider-Man's loved ones. However, they soon discover
Iron
that
Fist.
Smythe programmed the cyborgs with a form of spider sense, thus they're able to detect attacks before they happen and overpower the Avengers. If they want to stand a chance, they've got to get rid of that spider sense, and so Spider-Man races back to Horizon Labs to develop some way of disabling it. He manages to whip up a neurowave transmitter bioelectrical magical thing that will cover the
Magical.
whole city. But the most important thing
Squirrel Girl
is
has
that
never lost a
Spider-Man has
fight?
to be away from the device
Yeah,
once
that's
it
true.
activates, or
That's
it'll
true.
fry his spider sense too.
Green
Upon
bean
finding
upgrade.
The device, he's confronted by the Scorpion, who destroys Spider-Man's controls.
There we go. That
meaning
suit
he
is
can
sick,
no longer
bro.
activate it remotely.
Big
And so
body.
Peter's like, fuck it, and activates it anyway, severely weakening the Spider Slayer army, but also permanently barbecuing his own spider sense.
Wait,
with
wasn't Squirrel Girl also involved in a fight with Thanos? So for her to not lose a fight, that's actually pretty impressive. I ain't gonna lie, gang. I ain't gonna lie.
Plan ruined and no one to back him up. A desperate Smythe tries to kill Jameson himself. Just as he's about to tear a hole in
so.
Jameson's chest, Marla throws herself in front of him, sacrificing herself to save her husband. In her last moments, Marla urges Jameson not to waste any more of his life on hate. As she dies in his arms,
Like,
Jameson
come on,
refuses to blame Spider-Man for what happened, and puts full blame on himself.
Is this character
After
development?
Marla's funeral, Spider-Man makes a vow that from now on, no one will die under his watch.
Holy lie.
Meanwhile, Anti-Venom finds out that Martin Lee, the head of the homeless shelter, is in fact Mr. Negative, and so he goes to take him out, only to be interrupted by Spider-Man. Eddie tries to tell Peter that Martin Lee is Mr. Negative.
I just beaten
Peter
Mr. Negative too.
him.
That's so funny.
Eddie's like, alright then, webs him to a guy's ass, and goes to confront Mr. Negative himself. When Mr.
You know what? It
Negative's
was
true
Galactus.
identity is exposed, Peter's
It was
like,
Galactus.
oh shit. Fair enough.
Not
All while
Thanos.
Dr. Octopus completes the finishing touches to
It was
his
somebody
final
big.
plan,
I remember it being
secretly
somebody
launching
big.
a number of satellites into orbit. And as if Peter joining Horizon Labs wasn't enough, he's about to fulfill another dream from those early issues, joining the Fantastic Four. In the past, he may have broken into the Baxter building, beat the shit out of them, and was like, gave me money, but he was doing it all wrong. Instead, all he had to do was be patient and just wait for the Human Torch to die, and then a spot would open up for him. In all seriousness, Johnny Storm sacrifices himself to save the entire universe. In a series of recordings he made in case of his death, he asks Peter to take his place on the Fantastic Four, to which Peter gladly accepts. However, it's not the Fantastic Four anymore. They've renamed it to the Future Foundation. Now a member of the Avengers and the Future Foundation, and having a full-time job at Horizon Labs, Peter's got barely any time to spend with his girlfriend Carly. Fortunately, Carly's job as a forensic scientist requires her to be on call 24/7, meaning she conveniently has to leave a lot of the time, allowing Peter to go off and be Spider-Man. And you know what? For the first time since his marriage was torn away from him, Peter's life seems to be on track. To replace his spider sense, he's taking lessons from Shang-Chi, who is teaching him Spider-Fu. He's also expanded his equipment. He's got voice command web shooters, a stealth suit, a bulletproof suit, his Future Foundation suit, and his relationship with Carly is going pretty well. That is, until she gets stuck to the ceiling. Everyone in New York is now mysteriously woken up with spider powers. Just a heads up, this is about to get a little bit complicated. As part of a massive experiment, the Jackal has spent the last couple of months covering the city with his own little spider bedbugs, all of which carrying a spider virus. Also, he's resurrected Kane and turned him into a giant tarantula to serve as his right-hand man. Also, he's captured Captain America and turned him into another big tarantula to serve as his left hand.
Oh, what if this became a skin in Marvel Rivals, chat? Whoa. Okay, the whole town having spider powers is actually kind of insane, I ain't gonna lie. And this dude's brought back the Jackal once again. Like, somebody pack him up for real, please. But I'm curious as to what the hell this whole, like, they're on Spider-Man's dick. I ain't gonna lie, bro. They're on Spider-Man's dick. Come on, you got the whole city of New York glazing Spider-Man's powers. Like, everyone has Spider-Man's power. Why Spider-Man's powers? Mind you, we got the whole Avengers, bro. Not the Hulk's powers. Like, come on, gang. We could have figured out something. Like everyone couldn't get a goddamn Iron Man suit. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are we so invested in Spider-Man's powers? We have other niggas, gang. We have other niggas. Like, come on now, bro. Come on. Wait, what if this was an event of Rivals? Ooh, that would be so fire. Where fights could take place on floors and walls and ceilings. Bro, I could totally see them doing that, bro. High key. You know, I think Marvel Rivals never expanded their... bro, and that's why I'm kind of... that's why I think it's getting a little... not to say cash grabby, but they're really trying to milk the revenue from it. Because they could really go deep into the Marvel lore like this, but they never have. Everything in Marvel Rivals is always surface level. You know what I'm saying? I mean, to appease the people who don't know, because I didn't know who Luna Snow was until I played that game. But, like, you know what I'm saying? We could really go deep into the lore and do some really cool shit, but, you know, they haven't done that yet, and I think they're waiting to do that. Just because it's Marvel. You know what I'm saying? I hope to do something like this pretty soon. But, like, even with them competing with DC, like, bringing Aunt May back, bringing Craven back, like, I don't know, some stuff is unnecessary. They just did it for shock value.
The man. The city is quarantined, and all of the bridges are blocked off to prevent this spider virus from spreading to the rest of the world. While the majority of citizens are decent people who only use their powers for good, there is a certain vocal minority who'd rather use them for chaos. And so the Jackal begins the next phase of his plan, to round up all of the gangs in New York, give them Spider-Man costumes, and so when the Avengers show up to try and fight them, they won't be able to recognize the real Spider-Man, and they'll beat him up as well. This guy just exists to fuck with Spider-Man, and it's genius.
That's what I'm saying. It's not genius. It's dick riding.
Why ditches his costume, pretending to be yet another person who woke up with spider powers. Peter rallies the good citizens of New York to make a stand and fight all of the gang members. It now seems that every person in Peter's life, even Jameson, has spider powers. Every person except Mary Jane. And Aunt May, but she's out of town. Carly gets a little suspicious and thinks that Peter is a little too good with his spider powers. The Jackal sends Captain America to break through the blockades and let the virus spread. In response, the government deploys Flash to capture him, and his mission is a success. Flash then uses the Venom symbiote to disguise himself as Captain America's tarantula form, and returns back to the Jackal undercover. Everything's going according to plan until suddenly everyone in New York mutates, turning into these massive spiders. It's here we learn that the Jackal isn't actually the mastermind behind this whole thing. No, that title belongs to the Spider Queen, who used the Jackal's skills to develop a virus, connect it to the spider totem shit that Straczynski was on about, in order to create her a massive spider army. However, her plan is interrupted by Anti-Venom, who's going about using his powers to cure the giant spiders. So, the Queen sends Captain America, who is actually just Flash in disguise, to go and kill Anti-Venom. Flash, of course, snakes her, and takes Anti-Venom to Horizon Labs, where they can use Anti-Venom's healing qualities to develop a cure for the spider virus. The Queen's like, shit, that's not good, and sends Kane to sabotage the cure. Spider-Man then tries to protect Anti-Venom, but he's completely overpowered by Kane and laid to waste. Just then, Horizon Labs, along with the Future Foundation, creates a device that returns Spider-Man's spider sense. Spider-Man's now got spider sense and spider foo, throws Kane into the Anti-Venom juice, and turns him back into a human. The Queen finds out what happened, gets really angry, fucking kills the Jackal. He was just sitting there, man. What did he do? And turns into a giant spider monster. Both Flash and a now cured Captain America confront the giant Spider Queen, but it's no use, and she starts causing devastation all across the city, surrounded by her massive army of New York spider people. Horizon Labs now has a cure, but they just need a way to distribute it. And so Peter's like, hold up, remember that time when Dr. Octopus connected to everything in the city with his little Octobots? Why don't we just do that, but with the cure? And so Peter connects his brain to Otto's system. The Queen sends her army after him, but they're held back by Mary Jane Watson, whose spider powers were merely delayed due to years of her and Peter doing stuff. That's as close as I can describe it without risking monetization. Peter cures New York using the Octobots. MJ says that she loves him, but he doesn't hear her, so fuck you. Kane comes in clutch at the last minute, now dressed in Peter's stealth suit, just fucking launches himself into her mouth, which blows her up into a million pieces and scatters her brains all across the city. The day is saved, everyone is returned to normal, and Carly breaks up with Peter because she's figured out that he's Spider-Man. But hey, don't worry about it. Spider Island, the end. And with these final few stories, Peter's journey as Spider-Man is slowly but surely coming to a close. Dr. Octopus activates his final plan, an array of satellites covering the globe which accelerates the effect of global warming. As billions of people burn, Otto turns it off and is like, just kidding, that's what's gonna happen to the Earth if we don't do something about it. And so his final gift to the world is to actually reverse global warming. Maybe just lead with that, but okay. Right. Most world leaders are on board with it, and they agree to help produce the last of Otto's required satellites. It seems like Spider-Man is the only person on Earth who has his doubts, and so he calls the Avengers into action, showing off his all-new Sinister Six-proof armor. He leads the charge against Otto and his fellow villains, but Otto's been preparing for them, and uses a series of gadgets and gizmos to take them down. His plan goes off without a hitch. Otto looked crazy, bro. Elektra was shot into space, but apart from that, leaving Spider-Man and Black Widow as the last remaining Avengers. Okay, so there's no one to help them. All of the other superhero teams are conveniently off-world. Black Widow's kinda useless, no offense. Once again, he's fucked. That is, until they're both rescued at the last minute by Spider-Man's old mercenary pal, Silver Sable. They escape on Sable's invisible jet and start hatching a plan to take down Otto. Otto still needs these last few satellites, so if they can break into those factories
You
and
know, I'm starting
stop
to realize a
production,
pattern, chat, with the stories and shit like that. Whereas though, like, the way it would happen, right? There will be the villain, right? And it'll be Spider-Man. Spider-Man's getting his ass whooped. I mean, he's getting his ass handed to him, right? Boom. And they're trying to find a way to get around to beat the villain. They can never find a way to get around to beat the villain. So out of nowhere, out of the blue, since Marvel has a lot of characters made and a lot of issues and a lot of side stories, you'll get a character that has nothing to do with the situation and bring them in like, oh, shocker, they're in, and then they help and then save the day. Like, I think that's their like key token, bringing in someone who had nothing to do with this side quest whatsoever. Like when something's going wrong, anti-venom. If it's not anti-venom, it's something, bro. It's always something. Somebody, Harry, someone, like someone who has nothing to do with like the conflict comes in and puts their 2 cents in, and then the story gets resolved, bro. I figured out their meta.
then he can't complete his plan, right? One such factory is in North Africa, and so they fly the invisible jet there in the hopes of sabotaging it. Unfortunately, they are ambushed by the Sandman, who's now made up of all the
Sandman.
sand in the entire Sahara Desert. With the help of
That's actually
Horizon
cool,
Labs,
bro.
Spider-Man and his crew are able to detect Sandman's brain, the one singular sand particle which contains his consciousness, and they manage to take him down. Peter and the crew then continue to sabotage factories all across the globe, running into several members of the Sinister Six. But it's no use, as Otto keeps launching satellites faster than they can shut them down, and now the only way to stop him is to confront him directly. Because Mysterio is a backstabbing bitch, they locate Otto's secret underwater base, with Spider-Man
look
and
cool as
Sable
well.
being sent to break in. Upon learning of this, Otto floods the lower levels of his base. During their break-in, Spider-Man
Oh yeah,
and
see,
Sable cross
yo,
paths
my fault for pausing a lot, chat. They mastered costumes at this point on. They mastered costumes. Everyone looks sick. Everyone, even the side characters.
with the Rhino, which shouldn't be a problem. There are two of them, one of him. All they gotta do is go around him. But Rhino's like,
Rhino, big
not
body.
so easy, you wall-crawling, web-spinning fuck, and prepares to join the ranks of the coldest Spider-Man villain moments of all time. He grabs Sable with his massive Rhino hand and promises that he will not move. As the water rises and the air leaves his lungs, he will not move. He will only loosen his grip when both he and Sable are dead, and he can finally join his dead wife. And so Peter is given another choice. He can either go and stop Octavius, potentially saving billions of lives, or he can fulfill his vow of letting no one die and save Sable. The answer is kind of obvious, and so Peter reluctantly leaves Sable to drown. In a
That's
climactic
crazy.
confrontation with his greatest enemy, Otto admits that the whole environmentalist
Otto looks
saving
sick
the
as
world
fuck,
spiel
bro.
was a lie, and that he actually intends to wipe out the human race. Not every single person though. He'll leave just less than 1% of the population alive, so they will preserve his legacy as the greatest supervillain of all time. Unfortunately for Otto, he's stuck in a stalemate. With all of his arms being used to hold Spider-Man, he can't reach the control panel and activate his plan. If he tries to use one of his arms to reach said control panel, Spider-Man will get free and stop him from activating the satellites. And so, in a last-ditch effort to succeed, Otto completely abandons his life support and drags his decaying husk of a body towards the controls. With billions of lives depending on him, Peter once again uses his sheer indomitable will to defy his situation, possessing the impossible strength needed to free himself from Otto's arms. With the controls destroyed and his legacy ruined, Otto accepts his defeat, and if the water doesn't take him out, he'll be dead in a couple minutes anyway. But despite all that Otto has done, despite the fact that Sable's already dead, Peter still clings to his promise of no one dying. Otto is taken to the big supervillain prison known as the Raft, and hooked up to life support, only to be remembered as that one guy who didn't solve climate change. Upon his return, MJ throws Peter a massive party to say thank you for saving the world. Oh, are they
You
gonna
really
get back
did
together?
Sable
No.
again.
Just as Peter is about to take a break, suddenly the grave of Billy Connors is robbed, sparking a rumour that a certain villain is back. Morbius. Yes, it turns out that Morbius has dug up this child's grave in a supposed attempt to cure the lizard. Morbius and Spider-Man take to the sewers and use the combination of his son's DNA and Morbius's blood to transform him back into Kurt Connors. It's an apparent success, and they celebrate Kurt's return, completely oblivious that Kurt's consciousness is still well and truly dead, and only the lizard remains. The lizard then spends the next while pretending to be Kurt, faking grief over the loss of his son, his ultimate goal being to blend in until he can return himself back to his righteous, lizardish form. However, during his time spent with the people of Horizon, he grows attached to being a human and all the joys of life, such as video games and Carly Rae Jepsen. It was 2012. Even when he's fully developed the formula to change him back, the lizard hesitates, genuinely considering giving up and living the wonders of human life. But when Spider-Man discovers his plan, he's forced to inject himself and mutates into his final form.
Oh, why not let him
He's about
live?
to gobble a bunch of civilians when he's
Let him
suddenly
live.
interrupted by visions of his son, his wife, and his old self. These illusions distract him enough for Spider-Man to inject him with yet another cure and defeat him. It's a lukewarm victory at best. While the cure significantly weakened the lizard, it failed to turn him back, and the hope of Connor's ever returning is lost. At the very least, no one got hurt, and the lizard is dropped off at the raft. That's where Dr. Octopus is. If there's one thing I like about this era of Spider-Man, it's that it always felt like it was building up to something. There'd always be forces at play behind the scenes, or elements that would be introduced only to pay off like 40 issues later, and all of these things eventually led to the series' grand finale, Amazing Spider-Man issue 700. It's time for Otto Octavius to take his last breath, but before he does, he has a final master plan. While Spider-Man may have saved the world a bunch of times, he kind of fucked up in a big way. To stop the Octobots, he plugged his brain into Otto's system. To cure Spider Island, he plugged his brain into Otto's system. Even when designing his spider armor, he integrated Otto's system
Dude, his
into
spider
the
armor
helmet.
looks sick,
This
bro.
whole time, he's been giving Otto access
That nigga
to
looks
his
cool
mind.
as
Using
fuck.
his psychic connection, Otto's been controlling a single Octobot, slowly crawling from the ocean floor all the way back to New York. It
Octobot.
finds Spider-Man during a battle, and using all of the brain data Otto's been collecting, completely rewrites Peter's brainwaves with his own, effectively swapping their brains. And so while Peter is now stuck in a decrepit, dying body, Otto
not a skin in
Octavius
the
is
game?
now free to do whatever he wants.
Like the Spider-Man video game, or Marvel Rivals. It's not Marvel Rivals at all. Yeah, no, it's not Marvel Rivals. The Spider Armor. I don't. It might be, and I just didn't unlock it yet. Honestly, that's what I'm thinking. I probably didn't unlock it yet, or maybe I. No, nope, not this skin. Not this skin. This shit's cool as fuck though, bro. This looks cooler than Deadpool, bro. Damn.
Access
Shit look
to his
hard.
mind. Using his psychic connection, Otto's been controlling a single Octobot, slowly crawling from the ocean floor all the way back to New York. It finds Spider-Man during a battle, and, using all of the brain data Otto's been collecting, completely rewrites Peter's brainwaves with his own, effectively swapping their brains. And so while Peter is now stuck in a decrepit, dying body, Otto Octavius is now free to do whatever he wants as Spider-Man. His
It is
final
in the
way
game?
of cheating
Okay, but
death
I haven't
and
unlocked
getting
it yet.
revenge against his greatest enemy. As he coughs up blood and his organs start to fail, Peter prays to God and asks what he possibly could have done to deserve this, begging not to die in a place like this. With not much to do, he speaks to the lizard in the next cell along, who reveals that the cure worked, and that he's now 100% Kurt Connors on the inside again. Peter urges him to tell someone, but Kurt would prefer to stay trapped in his cell, as punishment for what happened to his son. He only told
Damn.
Peter because he's got hours to live and his secret will die with him. Okay, but he's Spider-Man. He's not just gonna give up and die. So what the hell is he gonna do? Well, if Otto has access to all of Peter's memories, then it works the other way around. Peter searches through all of Otto's knowledge and experiences, his contingency plans, secret bases, certain memories of Otto and Aunt May on their wedding day that makes you want to bleach out your eyes. Eventually, Peter makes the same psychic connection with the rogue Octobot, and uses it to call his fellow supervillains for help. His message is received, and he's then broken out of the raft by Scorpion, Hydro Man, and the infamous Paste Pot Pete. Meanwhile,
Bro, this
what is
nigga's still
Otto up to in
relevant? Who the
Spider-Man's
fuck is
body?
Paste
Well,
Pot
he's arranged a
Pete?
date with Mary Jane, but it's very clear that he wants more
W
than
glow up
that.
with
I can't
Scorpion,
tell if
by
it's
the
meant
way.
to be intentionally funny, but as she's getting closer and unbuttoning his shirt, he's saying things like, "Excellent! Another victory for the Master Planner!" Finally, Peter and MJ get back together, and it's Dr. fucking Numbnuts Octavius in his body. If you think about what's actually
That's
going
crazy.
on here, it's really fucked. But thankfully, they are interrupted by a news alert. Realizing that Peter will be coming to get his body back, Otto does the incredibly smart move of booking a round-trip flight to Belgium, thus ensuring that Peter will never be able to reach him, and by the time the plane lands, Peter will be dead. Meanwhile, Peter's life is in the hands of Paste Pot Pete, as the villains try to reattach his metal arms
Bro,
to his
fuck
body.
Paste
In
Pot
doing
Pete.
so, they accidentally kill him, and Peter is transported to the afterlife. It's there that he meets his dead parents, George Stacy, Gwen,
And of course they want to go ahead and upgrade, like improve on Paste Pot Pete's, whatchamacallit, on Paste Pot Pete's, suit, bro. It looked cornier than what it does now.
Harrison,
He had the glow
Winslow,
up.
and finally, Uncle Ben. Ben delivers a powerful
But he's
speech
still
about
Paste
how proud
Pot
of him
Pete.
he is, how
Nigga
Peter's
needs to go
built such an
home.
amazing life which he can't let Otto destroy, and encourages him to get back up one last time and fight.
Hey,
Back
there's
in the
some
real
anime
world,
stuff.
Peter wakes
What the
up,
fuck?
ready to get his body back. But none of that matters, because Otto is about to leave for
Ugh.
Belgium, and so the saving grace, the hero who saves the day, is not Spider-Man, it's not Paste Pot Pete, it's in fact J. Jonah Jameson. While being interviewed about the breakout, Jameson calls Otto a buffoon, a loser, a complete imbecile who's never actually accomplished a single one of his evil plans, and it is that one speech that makes Otto reconsider the flight and face Peter himself. Peter breaks into the police precinct where all of Otto's old equipment is being stored. He steals one of Otto's mind-swapping Octobots and is about to make a merry getaway when he's confronted by Carly Cooper. Peter tries to explain that it's actually him.
See,
and that he's
you see how they bring in characters out of the, like, Carly had nothing to do with this right now. Carly had, like, no relevance whatsoever. They bring in another character, you know what I'm saying? But it's another, like, not to say side character, but a character from a different story that Spider-Man went through to then switch up, you know what I'm saying? Listen, that's meta. It's working. It worked. You know what I'm saying? Bring in just a random, you know what I mean, a character you didn't expect. I low-key think they still do that shit now.
in Otto's body.
That might
to
be
which she's
tech.
like, no, that's
For
not.
all you story creators out there.
Blank. Her bullet ricochets off of Peter's arms and hits her instead. After
Dumbass.
tying up Carly's wound and praying that she'll live, Peter and the villains go back to their secret base. Returning from the airport, Otto has rounded up all of Peter's loved ones in Avengers Tower, just in case the evil Dr. Octopus comes after them for their connections to Spider-Man. We've got Mary Jane, Aunt May, Jay, Jameson, the Daily Bugle, the guys at Horizon Labs. Otto also snitches to the police of the whereabouts of Dr. Octopus's secret base, and an army of publicly funded Spider Slayers are deployed to take Peter out. Peter, Scorpion, and Hydro Man escape, leaving poor old Pasty Pete behind. And if this
Fuck
scene was a kick in the
Pixie
balls,
Pete, nigga.
it gets even worse. When they're alone, MG confesses to who she thinks is Peter, that she's always loved him, no matter what happened between them or whatever fucking devil deal they've gone through, to which Otto responds by making out with her. Using his secret Avengers passcode, Peter
That's
enters
drawn.
Avengers Tower. If he can show someone like Iron Man the Octobot, then they'll understand what's going on and be able to help Peter get his brain back. Unfortunately, Otto has already thought of this, and has activated his massive Octobots all across the globe, leaving the Avengers occupied and no one at home to help. Not even Squirrel Girl. It is then that Otto accidentally lets slip that J. Jonah Jameson is in the building, piquing the interest of Scorpion and Hydro Man, who ditch Peter for a chance at revenge. Using his watery powers, Hydro Man discovers Jameson and his loved ones, only to be sucked up and contained by Horizon Labs and their power of science. Scorpion breaks into the safe room and they're like, well, science can't save us now.
Scorpion started
And they
looking
all
cooler
prepare
and
to
cooler,
die.
chat.
But Jameson stands up to the Scorpion, claiming full responsibility for what he did to him in the past, and sacrificing himself so that the others can get to safety. Before the Scorpion can take action, however, Otto leaps in and uses that raw indomitable strength to take Scorpion's jaw clean off. With literal minutes to live, Peter grabs Otto and throws them both out the window. Now that Otto is significantly weakened, Peter activates the special Octobot and begins the mind transfer. But just like everything else, Otto has already thought of it and came prepared. Otto uses the same raw strength to take Peter out, and Peter lies beaten and broken, seconds from death. Sure, his plan may have failed, but that Octobot managed to get into Otto's brain just the tiniest amount, leaving the tiniest psychic connection between the two. When Peter's whole life flashes before his eyes, he uses this connection to share the experience with Otto, and the two are flooded with all of Peter's memories and the values he's carried throughout his life. The kindness instilled into him by Aunt
Oh
May
my
and Uncle
gosh.
Ben. The importance of never giving up no matter how difficult things get. how tragic it is to lose someone and learning to move on despite it, the meaning of true love and how you don't truly appreciate how valuable it is until it's cut short, even saving Otto's life despite all that he did. Otto is overwhelmed. From his perspective, he is Peter Parker. These are all things that have happened to him, and the reminder of all of this completely shifts his philosophy. As the icing on the cake, Peter tells him that with great power, there must come great responsibility. Peter takes one last look at his loved ones, makes Otto promise to keep them safe, and with that, Peter Parker dies. This was of course very controversial at the time, and rightly so, killing off their main character on Stanley's birthday, but to me this is almost a perfect ending for Peter that represents who he is as a character. For most of his life, Peter was never rewarded for his heroics, nor was he able to really tell anyone what he was doing. He simply did it because it was the right thing to do, and that was more than enough. Peter does not get a happy ending. There's no reward at the end, and he dies as a villain, with no one to mourn him, no one to celebrate his life or acknowledge his sacrifice. To most people, this would be the worst fate imaginable, but Peter doesn't care. Even though he's utterly defeated, even though he could easily give up and rest, he spends his last moments trying to find the good in someone, and he dies perfectly content with the knowledge that he's done the right thing and that his loved ones are safe. He's brave, selfless, and full of hope. And so, as Peter Parker is laid to rest, Otto Octavius takes his place and promises to be Spider-Man, a better Spider-Man. Some could even say a superior Spider-Man.
Oh, get the fuck out! No, I don't appreciate that shit. But that shit's, oh hell no! What? Gang, hold on. Let's check. What the fuck was that? Check what hold on. Well, okay. First off, W video, amazing video, right? Great video. But what the fuck was that? Wait. So at the end, they take Spider-Man out. Wait, that's actually kind of sad, bro, because it covers everything that like he went through since I'm gonna say the '80s, right? Since the '80s, and then having it, you know what I mean? Having that as the last lead effect, knowing that everyone he loves is like safe. It's like, damn, I didn't know he actually died though, gang. You know, there's one thing I dislike about the progression of comics is how the colors got so much less vibrant. That's true. The colors did get much less vibrant. I agree. The guy that came out, Stanley's birthday.